If you talk to gardeners who lived through the war years, especially in Northern Europe or the Northern United States, you'll hear a recurring theme. Winter was the real enemy. Supply chains broke down, canned goods ran thin, and fresh vegetables simply disappeared for months at a time. Yet, in the middle of those brutal winters, with temperatures dropping to -30 degrees Fahrenheit, one humble crop kept growing quietly in frozen ground. It wasn't wheat, corn or potatoes. It was a leek, specifically old, winter-hardy varieties grown extensively during World War II because they solved a problem nothing else could. They stayed alive when everything else died. This video is about that leek, how it worked, why it fed people when modern crops failed, and why post-war agriculture walked away from it. If you care about practical history, food resilience, and the kinds of crops that matter when systems break, this story deserves your attention. The winter leeks that wartime farmers depended on for survival. During World War II, especially in Britain, Scandinavia, and parts of northern France, farmers leaned heavily on varieties known today as giant winter leeks or hardy blue-green leeks. These were not the tender supermarket leeks most people recognize now. They had, thicker leaves, deeper root systems, and a waxy outer layer that acted as natural insulation. When frost hit, the plant didn't die. It just sort of shut down, waited, and then resumed growth as soon as temperatures rose above freezing. What made these leeks extraordinary was, honestly, their ability to overwinter directly in the soil. Snow acted as insulation, and the plants remained harvestable all winter long. Even when the ground froze solid, farmers could break the surface and pull up edible leeks that were still firm, flavorful, and nutritious. During rationing, that reliability mattered more than yield or appearance. Why these leeks could survive extreme cold when other crops failed. The secret wasn't magic or, selective breeding in laboratories. It was slow adaptation. These leeks developed high concentrations of natural sugars, which lowered the freezing point of their internal fluids. Their leaves grew thick and fibrous, reducing cell rupture from ice formation. Most importantly, their growth habit kept the edible portion protected underground, where temperatures were more stable. Modern leeks prioritize tenderness and uniform size for mechanical harvesting. Wartime leeks prioritize survival. They grew slower, matured later, and tolerated neglect. That made them ideal for small plots, victory gardens, and farms stretched thin by labour shortages. How families actually used these leeks during the Second World War winters. These leeks weren't side dishes, they were staples. Families relied on them for soups, stews, and meat extenders when protein was scarce. A pot of leek and barley soup could stretch a small ration of meat across multiple meals. Soldiers stationed in cold regions often received dried leek flakes made from these hardy varieties, valued because they retained flavour after dehydration. From a practical standpoint, the key advantage was timing. You didn't need storage space, electricity, or preservation equipment. The garden itself became the pantry. That single fact explains why these leeks mattered so much in wartime. Why post-war agriculture abandoned these leeks almost overnight. After the war, farming changed fast. Mechanization favored uniform crops that matured all at once. Supermarkets demanded vegetables that looked clean, pale and mild. Hardy winter leeks were too tough, too irregular, and too slow for this new system. Seed companies stopped promoting them. Farmers followed market incentives, not resilience. Another factor was refrigeration. Once cold storage became widespread, there was less reason to grow crops that could survive outdoors all winter. Convenience replaced durability, and, well, knowledge of these varieties quietly faded into seed catalogues that, honestly, few people read. How modern gardeners and homesteaders can bring this leek back today. The good news is that these leeks never truly disappeared. They survive in heirloom seed collections under names like Musselburgh, Bleu de Solaires or Giant Winter. Planting them today follows the same logic as it did during World War II. Seeds are started in spring, transplanted in early summer and allowed to grow slowly through fall. By winter, the plants are established enough to handle extreme cold. For someone living in a northern climate, this means, fresh vegetables in January without a greenhouse. For a survivalist or preparedness-minded grower, it means reliable calories during the hardest season of the year. Even a small row can supply months of food. The real lesson here isn't about leeks alone. It's about priorities. Wartime agriculture focused on resilience, not convenience. Crops were judged by whether they kept people alive, not by how well they fit a display shelf. The disappearance of this leek reflects a broader shift away from long-term thinking. As climate instability increases and energy costs rise, crops that require constant inputs start to look, fragile. The Second World War winter leek reminds us that some of the best solutions already existed and were abandoned, not because they failed, but because they didn't fit an industrial model. Why this knowledge still matters now. Understanding why farmers stopped planting this leek helps us understand what we lost. It wasn't just a vegetable. It was a system of thinking rooted in endurance. Reintroducing crops like this isn't nostalgia. It's practical adaptation. If this kind of forgotten history matters to you, if you believe the past still has tools worth using, subscribe to the channel, share this video with someone who values real-world skills, and help keep this knowledge alive before it disappears again.